Have you ever walked away from an important conversation feeling frustrated because you were completely reasonable, but somehow you still lost? You stayed calm and listened. You considered their perspective. You even tried to find common ground. And yet by the end of the discussion, you found yourself agreeing to things you didn't want, accepting blame that wasn't yours, or compromising far more than the other person. If that sounds familiar, the problem may not be that you're too emotional. It may be that you're too reasonable. And in high-stakes conversation, that can become a serious liability. Today I want to discuss the hidden cost of being too reasonable and why the people who consistently maintain influence often combine calmness with something many reasonable people struggle to enforce: boundaries. Most of us are taught that being reasonable is a virtue. And generally speaking, it is. Reasonable people listen, they consider evidence, they often remain open-minded, and they seek mutually beneficial outcomes. Those are all positive traits. The problem begins when reasonableness turns into endless accommodation, because many people unknowingly cross a line. They stop being reasonable and start becoming negotiable. There's a difference. Reasonable people evaluate ideas. Negotiable people continuously surrender their position. And unfortunately, manipulative individuals know how to exploit that. In low-stakes conversations or situations, excessive flexibility rarely creates major problems. But high-stakes conversations are different. Performance reviews or salary negotiations, business deals, client conflicts, promotions, anything like that. Anything that's a high-stakes conversation. In these environments, every concession sends information. Every compromise communicates value. Every retreat establishes precedent. The more willing you appear to abandon your position, the more pressure people often apply. Not because they're evil, because human beings naturally test limits. If no limit exists, the testing continues. And many highly intelligent professionals unknowingly invite this behavior because they believe maintaining harmony is always the highest priority. But it really isn't. Sometimes clarity is more important than harmony. One of the most dangerous habits I see is what I call infinite understanding. It sounds noble, but it often becomes self-defeating. Someone criticizes you unfairly, you immediately try to understand their perspective. Maybe someone misses a deadline, you understand. Someone repeatedly crosses a boundary, you understand. Someone shifts responsibility onto you, and you understand. Before long, you're carrying the weight of everyone else's behavior while nobody is carrying responsibility for their own. Understanding someone does not require accepting their behavior. That's a distinction many people miss. You can fully understand why someone acted a certain way and still refuse to accommodate it. Here's something I've noticed about effective leaders and strong negotiators. They are often extremely reasonable, but they're not endlessly accommodating. When they reach a boundary, they stop moving. They're calm, professional, without anger or without drama, and definitely without lengthy explanations. The mistake many people make is assuming boundaries require aggression. They don't. In fact, the strongest boundaries are often delivered quietly. A calm boundary creates friction without creating conflict, and that's incredibly powerful. Imagine someone repeatedly tries to push additional work onto your plate. The overly reasonable response sounds like something like this: well, I understand, everyone's busy, I'll see what I can do. The calm boundary sounds different. Something like, I don't have the capacity for that right now. That's it. No speech, no apology, no 20-minute justification, just clarity. Or perhaps someone is trying to reopen a discussion or decision you've already made. Instead of defending yourself repeatedly, you simply say, I understand your concerns. The decision remains the same. Notice what's happening. You're not arguing, you're not escalating, you're not attacking. You're simply refusing to negotiate something that is no longer negotiable. That is boundary setting, and it is one of the strongest authority signals available. Many people fear boundaries because they think boundaries create dislike. Sometimes they do. But lack of boundaries often creates something worse: loss of respect. People trust structures and consistency. People trust predictability. When your position constantly changes under pressure, others become uncertain about where you stand. Ironically, clear boundaries often make relationships healthier because everyone understands the rules. The uncertainty disappears, the endless negotiation disappears, and the emotional exhaustion disappears. Credibility increases, though. The most influential communicators understand a simple truth: not every conversation requires persuasion. Some conversations require declaration. Most people spend too much time trying to convince others to respect their boundaries. Powerful communicators simply communicate them calmly, clearly, and consistently. Because boundaries are not requests. Boundaries are conditions. And conditions lose power when they're constantly negotiated. So the next time you find yourself in a high-stakes conversation, ask yourself, am I being reasonable? Or am I becoming endlessly negotiable? Because this is a difference, a significant difference in the two. Reasonable people remain open to evidence. Strong communicators remain committed to their principles. The goal isn't becoming rigid. The goal isn't becoming aggressive. The goal is learning how to combine calmness with conviction. Because in high-stakes conversations, influence doesn't come from being the loudest person in the room. And it doesn't come from being the most accommodating. It comes from being the person who knows exactly where their boundaries are and remains calm enough to hold them. If you ever found yourself giving ground in a conversation simply to keep the peace, let me know in the comments. What's one boundary you wish you had enforced sooner? And if you enjoy content about communication, influence, negotiation, psychology, and conversational power, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next video.